Namaste. Welcome back, beautiful souls, to my Decan Walk 2026. And I want to apologize for the delay in getting back to my table to share with you some reflections on this decan. We're already 6 degrees into the first decan of Cancer. And I wonder if there have been personal avoidances, personal challenges for talking about these cards, if there's something that will come up today, kind of an aha moment where I realize, yeah, it's really difficult to talk about this decan. And I have been reflecting as I sit here and gaze at these cards, and they've been on the table for many days now. And so we'll see how this all unfolds. I feel that we can gain a lot of insight in this decan from the connections of not only the sephira of the twos, but the paths of the court cards that are significant here. We also have the Water Queen, who is perhaps the most significant queen in the third sephira in the Great Sea of Binah, the home of all of the queens, and the path that connects the twos, Two of Cups, all of the twos, to the Great Sea of Binah, going across the top of the Tree of Life, completing the supernal triangle at the top. We have the path of the Empress, which is the ruler of this decan. So Two of Cups, this is a Venusian decan. So the Empress has her path on the tree, but also as the planet Venus, we need to reflect upon the sevens and Netzach as well. And that connection to the Seven of the Chariot card. And so there are, I suppose, as always, a lot of intersections to reflect upon. I particularly like this Chariot card because it shows the power of the Chariot, the fieriness of the Chariot that I often feel. And yet, like in the Waite-Smith Tarot, the charioteer, the figure that is represented here, is still and quiet and in reflection. And this fits so beautifully with the ruler of Cancer, which is the moon represented by the priestess. And this just makes so much sense. And I know that a lot of people are challenged with the Chariot representing Cancer, cardinal sign of water. There's something here that makes me want to reflect upon the path of the Chariot, because the path of the Chariot takes us from the Great Sea of Binah, the home of the queens, to the challenges of Geburah and Mars. And so there's this feminine, masculine journey. There is in the energy of the Chariot this breaking away from the supernal triangle, moving forth towards our greatest challenges. Geburah, of course, is the fives in the tarot. And in Le Tarot, ou Amour Étrange, which I've shared with you, I believe, in a couple of episodes, we are lit by this power, moving through the darkness, so that you could say that is the feminine, the divine feminine, not just the path, but the pillar on the tree of life. And the path of the Chariot is parallel to the path of the High Priestess. Very important pathway, a very long pathway on the tree of life. And they run side by side, almost as if they are naturally in conversation with one another. And so if I take all of these cards and I think, okay, the twos live in Hokmah, the Sephira of the Divine Father. The Empress, which is the ruler of the decan, is the path that connects us to the queens, to the great sea of Binah. And so in the Two of Cups, in two different directions, we are looking at balance, harmony, connection, journeying from divine masculine to divine feminine. And it seems that we have all of the pieces here because the chariot, like I said, moves from the great sea of Binah to Geburah. So here's the chariot here. Sorry, lots of cards on the table. While this is a 3 decan story, we are here at the beginning of this. And when we're looking, we're not quite at the threes yet, so it is the Sea of Binah that is the home of the threes, and we'll get to the Three of Cups in the next episode. This decan already has us thinking about this journey from Hokmah to Binah to Geburah, supported by a lot of strong, powerful energy in multiple directions. And so I think that's why this card really appeals to me, with the oranges and the fieriness of the divine masculine, perhaps speaking to the journey towards Mars, and the blues and the introspection of the feminine pillar, the watery energy. And I think here in this first decan, it's really a time to honor the divine feminine in all of her forms. Venus, the Earth Mother, the ruler of the decan, the lunar, intuitive energy of the High Priestess, the ruler of the sign, and the court card that began its journey in the previous decan, where we lay down and surrendered and acknowledged that we're not really in charge. In the Ten of Swords, the lesson of surrender, the lesson of letting go of control is so very important. And yet all of that air energy, air being the element of the heart space, but also the energy of swords and some really great challenges of life, was brought together in a really profound way. And so now here, the Water Queen takes us to this place where we reflect on another and begin to see these lessons and these feelings and experiences through the eyes and the heart of another. One of the beauties of the Two of Cups on this decan, that's often called love when there's a keyword on the card, is one where through the connection of the kings and the queens, twos again being Hokmah and the Sephra of the kings, and this decan being connected to such strong feminine energy through the court, the ruler of the sign and the ruler of the decan, really makes us think about how important both are in relationship. And whether this is a card that has us thinking about self and self-development, or development of character through relationship with another, I think it's only because of the surrender that we experienced in the Ten of Swords that we find ourselves more open to the teachings of this decan. This is the Thoth Journey Tarot by Joanna Kate Grant, with amazing artwork by Aya Lu. And I would like to share with you a little bit from the Thoth Journey Tarot. If you're not familiar with this volume, there is a journal entry for each of the cards, and the protagonist, or the author, journeys from a sacred room through a door into the world and into the artwork of the card. And I'm going to read to you a little bit from the Two of Cups. pushing the old door as she walks softly through the portal into a swirl of gentle chalk pastel colors, which embrace her with a longing sigh, and she stands gazing out onto a warm, sun-filled landscape dotted with large geometric objects in soft, muted colors. Cubes of perfect petal pink, pyramids of clear blue, and spheres of leaf green lie scattered around her, and looking further afield, she sees a vast expanse of water. A peaceful, sanguine sea mirrors a perfect reflection of the blue sky arching above the ripe and sultry shimmer of the golden afternoon. In the far distance, tiny figures move, farmers with their dark, stoic buffalo, hawk deep in the tepid water, still the newly fertile soil, and she recognizes she is standing on a floodplain, witnessing the inundation, the yearly flooding of the great river Nile, as it brings life and fertility to this land of contradiction. Every year, as the star of Isis rises again over the eastern horizon, the dry aridity of the bleached and bone-hard desert comes alive with the arrival of the floodwaters. Covering the burning sand like a cool unguent, the water quenches the aching thirst of the parched desert like a lover home from war. She feels the sensuousness of it in every pore of her skin, the yearning and waiting, followed by the glorious blossoming of relief, satiation, and arrival. Yet despite the tranquility of the vision in front of her and the love and peace it brings, she begins to feel there is some further presence she cannot see. Alerted by her animal senses, she turns to look at the reality growing behind her. She turns to face the glorious lion-headed visage of Sekhmet hanging in the clean desert air, a hologram of colored light portraying the warrior goddess, drinker of blood, healer, plague bringer, the dispenser of avenging rage. The lioness gazes out across the lake of tears, wept by her grieving, widowed sister Isis, waiting for the time when Sirius rises once more on the eastern horizon to return fertility to the land. She bears witness to the pain and sacrifice of love, honoring the determination and faith to keep going where it seems lost forever, and she senses the hope held within the calm, soft vision, hope for the future, and hope for us all. And so in this decan, there's this return to love and an inundation of profound feminine energy. And whether it is a floodgates of tears, the lessons of this decan often ache with maternal trauma, generations of repeating feminine wounds. And I wondered why it took me so long to get to the table and to talk about these cards. And it makes me think about the house in which I live. I share with my 19-year-old daughter, my 29-year-old daughter, my 1-year-old granddaughter. And the four of us live here, often overwhelmed by water and maternal energy. And as I think about that, I can feel tightening around my throat. And so again, in this decan, we move towards, right through the Empress, from the 2 towards the 3. The next decan is the 3 of Cups, where we are literally within the Divine Mother. And then there's this breaking out of this Saturn quality, the restrictions, the discipline, the container of the womb. And so these decans of Cancer are the story of mother, are the story of birth. They are the stories that connect us to the greater archetype of mother. And this is the summer season in the Northern Hemisphere. We have the ability to be out and connecting to the water, For most people, I know that not everyone can be out and being a part of the waters and nature in the summer, but at least we can feel it through open windows. We can bring a bit of the garden indoors. Gaia, in all her forms, is everywhere. And while there is great beauty in that, that can also feel overwhelming, very, very powerful. And so in this decan, in the Two of Cups, take your time. Take your time with the relationship that is coming forth, the relationship that is challenging you. Allow the feelings, the emotion to rise. Do your best not to suppress it. It wants to flow. It wants to move. It wants to be heard and be understood. Work towards clarity and the precision of words and communication that were issues through the Gemini decans. Find words of compassion and love and learn to listen. The Queen of Cups is perhaps the most powerful of the queens in the third Sephira of Binah, and she is a great listener. And we also have with us and underneath and among all of this, the energy of the High Priestess guiding this inner voice that wants to know love and be love and find connection with our lunar receptive selves. And so whether you feel inspired with a chariot such as the one I shared with you from the Thoth Journey Tarot, or even the stillness of the charioteer in the Waite Smith, take time to pause and reflect about where I am and the choices that I have made, and know that what is arising here will help each of us to better understand the nature of our divine feminine. It is a time to soften and to flow and connect. And have a look at the Tree of Life and just think about this path of the Empress that not only connects Hokmah to Binah, but it completes the supernal triangle. And so there's something very divine in this decan that wants us to listen to spirit and understand the spirit of relationship, the divinity of relationship. And of course, because this is a Venusian decan, it can pull us towards the challenges of Netzach and the sevens. But for the most part, nothing can ever really go too wrong in the twos. Give yourself permission to hang out in a higher frequency for a while. It's a pretty sweet space to inhabit. This dance of divine feminine and masculine is written about so beautifully in the Mariel Tarot. Now, this tarot deck does not follow the Golden Dawn system, which is what we are working with when we go through these decans. But that does not discount in any way the wisdom of Marie White and the writings in the landscape of the abyss. And if you are having a hard time understanding the energy of the chariot, this is a wonderful guidebook, and I would strongly recommend reading about the sevens if nothing else in Marie White's work. 7 is a very important number in the tarot. We have 3 septenaries, 3 groups of 7 with very clear journeys and lessons. And this card is the tipping off point from the first to the second septenary. In the minor arcana, each of the suits has 2 groups of 7 reflecting one another. And in these many lessons of balancing divine masculine and divine feminine, the 7 is often looked at as a combination of the 3 of the Empress and the 4 of the Emperor, this undividable wholeness and oneness that in the Two of Cups we reflect on in a very personal way. And so just know that this idea that all of the twos are about relationship can help us in this unfolding and deeper understanding of what it means to be a whole person. In reflecting on the relationship that centers most importantly in your life at this time, how can you interact with spirit in such a way that you find more peace and a gentler nature in navigating any issues you may be moving through? This is a time to know the other in a very deep way. And so I send you love and flow and blessings as you explore this energy. Thank you for being here. Take good care. Namaste.